Well, first day of the new program. Got a lot of work to do. Let's see. Got a whole new control board here. Looks pretty complicated. At the same time, looks pretty easy. We got a hell of a program to start here. Now, I heard the Kerbals before us did pretty well, so I don't want to let them down. Let's see, we should be doing some science. Why aren't we doing science? Gus. Hey, Gus. Gus, you couldn't put on a clean pair of clothes first day of work? Is that it? Gus, I'm talking to you. Hey. Hey. Oh, shoot. Oh, shoot. Didn't mean to drop down your foot there. But Gus, I need you to wake up here. We need to do science. I know it's early in the morning, and nobody wants to do work at 5 in the morning, but this is the Kerbal Space program we're dealing with here. I didn't want to do this, but you left me no choice. Yeah, this is alright. Science. We're doing science. Where's the button? There's so many buttons. There we go. What time is it? Where's my coffee? Why is my foot burning? Here's your science. There you go. Press the button. I'm gonna take a nap. Wake me up at the next lunch. Hello everybody, and welcome back to KSP POV, where we play Kerbal Space Program in first person. This time we're doing Season 3. Over the past few weeks, there's been a few new mods and a few updates to some of the existing mods that have revolutionized the IVA modes for certain things. And one of our favorites, the probe control room, is gotten a huge update, which has inspired us to pick up our favorite series and start again for Season 3. This mod is one of a few that we're going to be showcasing as well. We'll be getting into that a little bit later, but the probe control room is where we're going to be spending a lot of our time in early game as we are playing in first person. And the probe control room has a new look to it that is very low tech. It's suitable for an early agency, and playing around with it as I have these past couple weeks, I've fallen in love with it, and I just can't wait to bring that back to the series. So we are going to be using that primarily, and that I must give credit to the author. The author's name is Kurgut, and I'm going to link their channel in the description below, and they have videos. They're also doing an IVA mode career playthrough, and I highly recommend going and checking them out. Their videos are great, their mods are great, and is a big portion of why Season 3 is happening as it is. We're also going to be using free IVA mod by Johnny O, and we hadn't used this in the previous series, but in brief, the free IVA allows you to move around in the capsules. So we're going to start playing around with some space stations, see what kind of fun we can get into through the eyes of these intrepid heroes. But so let's go ahead and start a game, and we are going to name this pretty simply just POV3, just to keep all my save files organized and everything. But this is unofficially known as the Legion's Space Agency. And we're going to go through some of the settings real fast. We're going to change it. It's not going to be completely stock. We're going to change some of the mods as well. First notably being is that our missing crews are going to stay dead. So we're going to try really hard to keep our Kerbals alive, as has always been customary with our playthroughs. Anyways, next we're going to come through here, and we're going to let our Kerbals level up automatically, because I feel that that's balanced. And we're going to have action groups always enabled, because we're not going to be able to control our science experiments from the inside of the probe control room, except via action groups. So now a lot of this is just personal preference on things. So now this mod is our contract configurator, and we are going to be turning on practically everything, because we can always use with more contracts. This one I'm entirely excited about, because we used to never do rescues because we played with TAC life support, and typically the Kerbal would die before we could get to them. But since we're not going to be playing with tax life support this time, we can actually accept some of those contracts. Now, another thing I'm changing in Dang It is I'm turning off the tank failures, the small tanks and the regular tanks, and that's fuel. I just didn't want to deal with that kind of hassle. I mean, part failures are fine. If I can get an engineer out there and fix it, I feel that I've done a good job. But to have all your fuel leak out into space, and I know that's real, but we'll leave the realism to RP1. And let's try to have some fun. Another thing that I didn't get a chance to talk to you in the beginning, I'll just mention now, is we're also going to be kind of continuing our Escaping Carbon series into this, and we're going to be merging the two goals. So in KSP POV Season 3, we are going to be trying to put a flag on every celestial body in the Kerbal system. And so the rest of these options I pretty much don't change, so I'm just going to kind of speed through and show you. So those are basically all the settings that we're going to be changing. And the last thing I want to talk about is our flag set. Like I mentioned, we are going to be placing a flag on every celestial body. So for that, we are going to have an individual flag for each one of them. This is a mod that you can find in the link in the description below, and you can use these flags in your own playthrough if you want. They're initially designed by a user named Norwegian Guy, and they gave me permission to put the mod pack together, so you can find that on Spacedock. And with all of that covered, I think all that's left to do is start this game. Let's go. A new dawn breaks over our agency, and we are getting ourselves ready to start completing some contracts, get ourselves off the ground here. And we already did some science, so we have a little bit to spend. However, we didn't complete the contract because we didn't actually launch anything. The Sleepy team themselves, all they could slap together was a probe core and some experiments. But those experiments gave us some science that we can use to further our understanding of rocketry. So we're going to go ahead and unlock the first two nodes, and that's all we got. So now, as you see, we, like I said, we didn't complete that contract, but we can go ahead and design ourselves something that will. So here's the little probe core that was featured in the intro, but it is not suited the way that it was for flight, so we're going to go ahead and give it a standard solid rocket booster. This one was an upgraded version from the tech node that we just unlocked. I'm going to lower its thrust so that way it doesn't explode due to the high G-forces. We're going to go ahead and put Communitron on here so we can transmit our science back, because we don't have access to parachutes. We are playing with the probes before crewed mod, and so this rocket will be destroyed, and there's no way to get the science back, so we're going to have to transmit it. Now, I'm not sure why the frame rate just dropped when in the VAB here. It doesn't do that later, so I'm not sure what went on, so I apologize about that, but it should clear itself up soon. So I switched out the side mystery goo container for an inline mystery goo container. While more expensive, I think it will give the rocket a little bit better stability, so it's worth it in the end. We're going to throw 2 batteries on here to make sure that it has enough electrical charge to transmit the science while in flight. And we are going to go ahead and put all of our science on action groups, so we can just flip a switch and make it do all the science, and then we're going to throw the Communitron on an action group so it can transmit the science. And this is why we needed those action groups on. We can't wait until we upgrade the VAB for it. We also have access to some rudimentary cameras. They're not great. You'll see later that they have a fatal flaw, but they are all we have, and having some eyes is better than no eyes. And we're using the TAC explosives mod, and that's what's giving us the dynamite. you'll see that's going to become a problem here, and we'll address that when we come to it. But those I also put on an action group as well as my abort stage, so that way if I need to, I can just abort it. So I go ahead and name this a new dawn, but then the pragmatic in me goes ahead and adds on PSRB1 because it was a probe SRB, our first launched rocket. And adjust the wings so that way, or the tail fins, so that way I don't obstruct the view of the camera. And there we go. There is our rocket. So let's go ahead and put it on the launch pad. Still early in the morning. We've got a lot done in that time period. Kerbals work quite fast. So here we are in the new probe control room. And it is a low-tech version of what we had before. We had a lot more screens and a lot more capabilities as far as what we could do with our rockets. And it never quite felt right for the early game when you're using nothing but low-tech pieces. So I was so thrilled when the author came out with this update. This you can also find in the link in the description below, so you too can check out this mod. As with all mods, you know, mod at your own risk. Neither myself nor the mod authors are liable for anything that happens because modding is difficult. It's not that it's difficult, but you need to follow directions. So it's always important to read all the directions and get all the dependencies while you can. But if you have any questions, let me know in the comments below and I'll do my best to help out. But here we are, we're going to turn on a few switches from the Crash Specialist desk, and then we're going to turn on a switch from the Capcom desk that allows us to have backlit instruments, because that just looks nice. Alright, so we've got our SAS on, we've got our DPAI set to prograde. We're going to do some science on the launch pad because we unlocked a new experiment, and so we had yet to do that on the launch pad. And then this screen, I don't know why that came up, but you know, easy enough to close. And with that, we launch. Now this rocket is fairly stable, and the thrust to weight ratio is low enough that it's not going to burn up, which is important because you want to be able to have time to transmit all your science before anything happens to it. And suddenly I hear some explosions, I lose some control of it, and my screen goes black. And that is because we decided to strap some dynamite to our rocket, which is not always the smartest idea. So we're going to go ahead and revert this back to the vehicle assembly building. In this playthrough, I'm not going to limit myself to no reverts. I think I'm going to give myself some wiggle room to play around with things. I'm going to be continuing the RP1 series. There's going to be some news on that soon, but because I'm going to be doing RP1, I feel that I will leave the realism and the challenge to that series, and with this series focus on a few more different things, such as exploration and something that we're going to explain a little bit later towards the end of the episode, but another mod that we have installed that's going to change around how we do our missions and get our funding. So let's go ahead and put this back on the launch pad. I took the dynamite off the abort stage and put it onto its own stage, so that way we can destroy this if we need to, or actually once we're done with it, because there's no need to follow this through its entire trajectory. And once again, we get the explosions and the loss of our camera, loss of control, and a loss of our rocket. So, the lesson here is that you shouldn't put dynamite on your rocket at all. I mean, dynamite is not useful for rockets. So dynamite and rockets are cousins, but not very good ones. So we're just going to come back here and take them off entirely. Alright, same rocket, little less weight, should do a lot better, and hopefully won't explode. So let's launch this for real now. So here it is, our very first rocket, a PSRB, the New Dawn. And as far as our atmosphere goes, the clouds are from BlackRock's volumetric clouds. Link will be in the description below. Alright, so now let's go ahead and get ourselves set up. We're going to get our screens set up the way that we like them. And we have controls on each of these screens individually, and we can use those buttons to interact with them as we need be. So once again, we're going to turn on our proximity warnings that will let us know if we're on a downwards trajectory. I guess not if, but when. So this is our rate of ascension, and the DPAI is kind of how we guide our nav ball, since we don't have access to maneuvers such as prograde and retrograde. So we're going to need to fly this by hand. We do have the option to have MechJeb involved, but we're not going to take that. So once again, we do the launch pad science, which is just a target scanning experiment. And as you can see, I mentioned earlier that there was a flaw in the camera, and as you can see in the screen to the left, there is a big black circle in the center of it. And that's just how the camera looks, and I don't know why. You'll see later that if you control from the camera itself, it doesn't have that, but when trying to interact with these screens, it just does that. So we're transmitting that science because we're not going to be able to recover the vessel, and thankfully we brought enough battery. So let's fire. So here I've got a few gauges that I'm looking at. Currently I'm looking at the nav ball to make sure that I'm pointed straight up, that we don't gain any sideways momentum, because early on it can be fatal with your stages. I'm also looking at our rate of ascent. We're pretty high. As you see there, our altitude, we just passed 100 meters. So we can go ahead and do the science for, you know, in the atmosphere low, and that's all that this is going to be doing science-wise, because we only packed the one set of experiments plus that extra scan target scanning experiment. So I'm clicking keep all, but then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here to our action group, and we're going to click the transmit action group, and then that way it will transmit all of our science together. Now I'm waiting for confirmation from the screen to tell me that it's transmitting, that screen over there on the right, but then I realized I have to go and give it permission to transmit all. So you see we're losing battery, and then you can see in the bar that I just circled, our transmission is going through. For a complete list of each control in this mod and how to use this mod and basically everything you need to know about this mod, I recommend checking out Kurgut's video that breaks down exactly that. If you want to play with this mod, it will explain everything that you need to know about each of the gauges and dials and buttons, and it's a great place to start. So we can see through the cameras, we're starting to pass the cloud layer. As we can hear, our transmission is going through. We got a load charge beep because we're running towards the ends of our battery. But that's why we packed two. And there it is. That is our low charge warning. Quite annoying, but can be turned off by clicking the display over here, or in our case, by just running out of battery entirely. So because we ran out of battery, we have no cameras, but we also have no telemetry data as far as where the rocket is. So there's nothing more I can do from this view. And while this is an IVA only series, we're going to go ahead and switch into EVA here. This is our first rocket, and with later generations, we're going to end up having enough battery power for the most part to control it, keep ourselves from being locked out entirely like this. We can put solar panels on it, so that way we don't lose control permanently, and so we're probably not going to be in this view very often. But while the rocket is on its trajectory and while we have things to look at, we're going to check it out. One of the mods that we are not going to be using in this series that we used in the previous series is parallax. As much as I love parallax and I absolutely adore the collision physics of it, the frame rate drop in certain areas becomes a little too unbearable, and so we have to kind of weigh what is most important for the series, and I think a little bit of controllability is a little bit better. So here we are on our downwards trajectory, and there's no heat shields and no parachutes, so this rocket is destined for the scrapyard if it can even make it that far. Hopefully we don't bomb any parts of the KSC. And while this one didn't actually reach space, it did gain quite a bit of altitude, and it's coming down quite fast for what it is. But oddly enough, when we hit, we don't completely destroy. It only took out our probe core. The rest of the rocket is safe and sound. I'm going to break off one tail fin, and maybe the communitron, I think. Can't remember. But yeah, rocket's fine, surprisingly enough. Parachutes, who need them? Gravity, that's a myth. At least in the Kerbal-verse. So in that beautiful sunset, we're going to go ahead and head back to the KSC. We're going to go ahead and recover this rocket, get whatever funds we can from it, because once again, we are playing in career mode, so funding is quite an important thing to us. But we're going to take one last look at this beautiful sunset and our amazing technological breakthrough. So we're going to head back here to the KSC, but before we go, we have a couple of things. I got a bunch of science here, and as you can see, we completed both our contracts, basically launching our first vessel. And we're ready to grab a new set of contracts, but before that, I want to head over here to the administration building and show you the other big mod that's going to be driving this series, or this season, I should say, and that is Strategia. Now, I don't have very much experience with this, and I couldn't find very many videos online kind of explaining the best usages of this, but these are different strategy programs. So as you see here, you have a probe program, and the first one is a crewed program. Then you have some astronaut training here, so you can hire astronauts at a higher level and for a certain amount cheaper, but you have to have that program active, and there's different tiers of the program so you can get better rewards. Things like massive scale launches will give you money every time you get a certain amount of tonnage to orbit, which I think is cool. So if you're planning on building space stations and things like that, real heavy parts, it would be in your best interest to activate that strategy. And you can use these strategies to really influence your gameplay and how you make money and how you can increase your goals and how to min-max things. And so I'm really excited to get into this. This next one that I'm going to click on is called Local Science, and this is it amplifies the amount of science you get when you're in the KSC, you're doing the KSC science, roving around into the different biomes and stuff. And that is something that we do early on in all of our series, but especially in POV. So that is going to be the first program that we're going to end up accepting. But that is going to be for the next episode. So anyways, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you're looking forward for more POV Season 3. If you did, please consider giving me a like, drop me a comment, let me know your thoughts, and I will see you all in the next one. Take care.